Hi everyone! Before we get into today's video, I need to talk about something so embarrassing that just happened. One of my goals for 2025, this new year, I really want to stop just hiding at my apartment. I feel like I spend so much time in my apartment. I've talked about this before. I'm a very big introvert. I love my space and I love reading, and obviously, if I'm going to be reading, I would rather read at home, be comfortable, whatever. Sorry, you see lamb chop in the background. With this in mind, I've been going to a lot of coffee shops and just journaling at them, sitting at them, reading, whatever. Today, my sister and I this morning decided to try a brand new coffee shop, literally like the second week that it's been open. We drive there, we get there, whatever. We're going to have a cute little morning, sit at the coffee shop, journal, whatever. I see to the right that there's a little menu off to the side. To be fair, I am wearing shoes that I've not worn in ages. They're Birk clogs, and if you've ever worn them, they're actually kind of hard to walk in if you've been wearing sneakers all the time. Long story short, I ate first time in this coffee shop. One of the baristas is really cute and I just fall. Anyways, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about my 25 books that I want to read in 2025. To be fair, 25 books is a lot. That's actually half of my reading goal. We're going to say it and try and stick to it. My reading goal for 2025 is 50 books. Now, if you watched my videos last year, if you know what I read last year, you're kind of like, why only 50 books? You literally read 105 last year. But for me, reading is about just enjoying it. And the second that I have a number goal that I need to hit, that it feels stressful and something that I have to do, I'm not going to do it. I don't like the numbers game when it comes to reading. I just want to read because I like reading and I want to spend my time doing so. 50 books is my goal for 2025. That being said, a lot of these books in today's video are probably not going to be read this year, but these are kind of some of the books that are on my radar. So without further ado, let's get into the 25 books that I want to read in 2025. Some of these are going to be new releases that come out in 2025, and then some of them are also going to be books that are already released, but I just haven't gotten around to reading them yet. This first book that I really want to read in 2025 is from an author that I feel like everyone has already read, but I don't believe I've ever read anything from this author, and that is Frederick Bachman. I really want to read Anxious People. Anxious People, from what I understand, is a literary fiction, contemporary fiction story about a bank robbery that is happening, and that's all I really know about the story. But I've heard that his writing is amazing, and I've heard that the book is really good, so I really want to read it so that I kind of know what the story is. This next book is a book that I have on my shelf. I've had this book on my shelf for kind of a while now, but I'm just so nervous to read it, and this is One Day. From my understanding, this is kind of, I don't want to compare it to Normal People, but it's the closest book that I've read that I feel like has a similar vibe or energy to it. One Day is the story of these two people who meet, I think, while they're in college. The timing is never right for them. They never end up together, and it's the story of them going through their life and the relationship that they have. A lot of people say that this book is really sad. I think I know what happens at the end of the book. I think it's also a Netflix TV show, or maybe it's on Hulu or something. I've been wanting to read that one for a while now. It's just a very long book, and I think I have to be in genuinely the mood to want to cry and read something very serious and intense. I haven't been in that mood for a while now, so I do want to read that in the coming year, or in the year that we're in now, but I don't know. We'll see about that one. We're just going to be jumping all around different genres in this video, but the next book I really want to read, Spark of the Everflame by, I think it's Penn Cole. This is a book, it's a fantasy book that I've been seeing a lot on Book Talk recently, and a lot of people really love it. I do not know what the book is about, but the cover just seems really interesting, and from the reviews that I've seen of people who have read the book, they really seem to enjoy it, and I'm very intrigued by it, especially fantasy books. I don't really keep up to date with new fantasy stories and new releases. I feel like anytime I go into the bookstore, I am going in there to buy a specific story that I already, know a lot about and have seen a lot of reviews about, and I think this is one of those books that just randomly popped up out of nowhere. I really want to read this one. I believe it's it's going to be a trilogy, or it is a trilogy. So that would be like adding another series to my TBR. And I have quite a few series that I'm in the middle of and need to finish. But honestly, I don't know if any of you guys are like this. If I start a series, I want to just read the series back to back. And half of the time, if the series is not finished, unless it's a book that I genuinely was obsessed with, I'm probably not going to go back and read the rest of the books. I'll just move on to other books. That might be a red flag. Sorry, it's a really bad habit. Another fantasy book that I want to read in 2025, I think this one is technically a YA fantasy series, but Legendborn. I think this is a trilogy. Now, the only thing that makes me nervous about Legendborn is, from my understanding, it is kind of like a dark academia sort of fantasy, and I really do not like dark academia. This book takes place in UNC, University of North Carolina, and I have family that lives out there, so I think it would be an interesting plot to read a book that takes place out there, because I've been out there, I know some of the places, whatever, but it does make me nervous. I'm not sure how much of like the fantasy magic system and any of that, I don't know how much of that actually matters with the dark academia and the college background. That is a book that I've seen so many people read, and it's kind of been one of those books that's been on my radar, but I've never actually just picked it up. So I think this year I might see if I can get it at the library, or I might have to do a little Barnes trip to go pick that one up. I'm just now realizing I have actually quite a few fantasy books in this list, but the next one that I want to read is Enchantra. So this is the second book in the Phantasma series. From my understanding, this is going to be more so like an interconnected story. So Phantasma is about the one main sister. This is going to be about her sister and a different love interest. I'm not sure if this is, I think it's about like a different game, not Phantasma, but like a different thing itself. But I just really loved Phantasma. It was so atmospheric, and I felt like I was in the story and in the world. And so I'm really excited to see, hopefully, if I have that same reaction to this second book. I think this one comes out within like the next couple of months. So hopefully it comes out within like before springtime. I don't remember the exact date, but I personally love reading fantasy during like this time of the year, because it's so bland and cold outside that it's fun to read fantasy, because I don't know, like your imagination is just running wild, and it just makes up for like the weather that's outside. This book I mentioned, I think in my last video, or maybe it was like the end of year book tag, but I really want to read the book I Who Have Never Known Men. From my understanding, this is a story about this group of women who, like the title says, they've never known men, and it talks about like the society that they build and kind of the way that their life is and how it works. I'm just very intrigued. I think the title is very interesting, but also I want to see just what the story is about. From my understanding, it's more so like a contemporary fiction, literary fiction story. Those aesthetic reading TikToks and clips, whatever, I see people read it all the time on those, and I don't know, it's just always, the title always catches my eye, and it's one of those books that I want to read and I want to have it on my bookshelf because I just think it's really cool. This next book that I want to read in 2025 is I think technically a classic. If not a classic, it's for sure a banned book, and it's actually one of my favorite movies. I really want to read The Giver by Louis Laurie. Don't know if I said the author's name right. Don't even know if that is the author's name. The Giver is a dystopian sort of world where there is one person who is, I think, called the Giver, if I'm remembering correctly, and he or she, I don't remember if it's only supposed to be men, but they basically hold like the knowledge of the world. In this society, everything's black and white. People don't remember color, music, like very random memories, and it's supposed to be so that peace and like calmness and just everyone's kind of controlled and there's no issues within that society. It's a banned book that talks a lot about very taboo subjects. I know is a topic in it. I think is a topic in it too, but I'm just very intrigued by it. I remember I loved the movie so much when I was in middle and high school, and I think I've read this book before. I cannot remember if I have, but nonetheless, I really want to read the book. And then actually, this is a whole series, so if I like the first book, I would really enjoy, you know, diving into the series. I think in 2024, I found a really big appreciation and love for a lot of like newer classics and just banned books and books that get me me thinking. I think it is so important to continue to learn after you graduate college, after you graduate high school, in your adult life. You know, learning never stops. And what's so fun about being at this portion of my life is I get to choose the things that I learn about and choose the content that I am taking in. And so, I don't know, I think being intelligent and being well-read and well-spoken is so awesome and beautiful. I want to read more classics in 2025 and more books that just talk a lot about things that people deal with in real life and in the real world, because I think it's so important. So yeah, that is definitely very, very high up on my list of books that I want to read this year. This book is another book that I talked about in my end of year book tag, and this is Butter. This is a book that I keep seeing at the bookstore that I want to buy so bad. From my understanding, it is a translated Japanese fiction story about a culinary chef who is like a murderer. I don't even know if that's correct. This book just looks so intriguing and the cover is just so pretty. I want to read this one so bad. Maybe within like January, February, I'll try and pick that one up. In 2024, I finally read my first Abby Jimenez book, and in 2025, she has another book releasing, Say You'll Remember Me, which anytime I say that, I just think of the Harry Styles Taylor Swift song. It's not a Harry Styles song, it's a Taylor Swift song. I think about Harry Styles. Or is it about Matthew Gray Googler? I don't remember. Anyways, this is her new release that she has, I think, coming out in April. From what I've heard about this book, it's actually very emotional and I'm so excited. I love Abby Jimenez's writing, and so this is also one of like within probably the top 5 of the 25 books that I want to read in 2025. I'm so excited for this release. I love her writing. She's just so like, you read her books and you feel like you're in them, and I love that so much. This next book is another one of those books. I have no idea what it's about, but I always see it on like aesthetic cool girl reading TBRs, and this is Berlin. This has actually been on my TBR for quite some time now. Again, no idea what the story is about. The cover is really pretty, and I just remember when I added it to my Goodreads TBR that I was so intrigued by the synopsis of the book. So I think 2025, again, like I said, I want to get more into newer classics and like just more contemporary fiction, books that make me feel like I'm an adult. I've read so many fantasies, so many romances. I love them. I'm always going to read them. I'm always going to read romances, but I kind of want to read more just intense books that make me feel like an adult. I also really want to read Not Another Love Song by Julie Soto. From what I know about this book, this is supposed to be like a Kylo Ren based male main character. All I really know about this story is that they're two musicians and she gets a part, or like gets the part that he wants, and he doesn't really like her at first, or maybe he does. I'm not totally sure, but I know a lot of people read that in 2024. I never was really interested in the story, but I've been seeing lately a lot of people have really positive reviews about it. And the other day, I don't know what happened. I've not been in like a romance reading mood lately, but the other day I literally picked up a book at Target. It was a romance story. I kid you not, I read it within 24 hours. I ate that shit up. I think I need to read more romances this year. I need to fill the void a little bit. This next book is another, I believe, Japanese translated fiction, and this is Lonely Castle in the Mirror. This one is like from 2020, Book Talk, BookTube era. I remember, I believe, Allison Pages or Noelle Gallagher talking about this book. From what I remember of the story, our main character ends up in this mansion, I think transported through a castle or something, and it's one of those like they have to solve something, and if they don't, they're basically going to wake up back at the mansion. I could be totally making something up, but I believe that's what the plot of this is. This is another one of those books that has been on my Goodreads TBR for ages, but I either never see it while I'm at the bookstore, or it's one of those books that is very expensive when you're at the bookstore, so I've always just put it off. But one thing I do want to do in 2025 is I would really like to shrink down my Goodreads TBR, especially books that have been on my Goodreads TBR for years now. I would like to read them to finally know what the story is, and this one just seems intriguing. It's kind of like whimsical fantasy magical realism from what I understand, so I'm intrigued with this one. The next two books are from authors that I love. Emily Henry and Ashley Poston both have new books coming out this year. So Emily Henry has a book called Great Big Beautiful Life, and then Ashley Poston has a book, Sounds Sounds Like Love. I don't know what either of those books are about, but I love those authors. I've read multiple of their other works and I'm very excited for their new releases. It's just so nice to have authors that you know and love. You can go into a bookstore and you might not know what you want to read, but if you see they have a new release, you know you're going to pick it up and you know it's going to be good. And the next 10 books that I have on my 25 books that I want to read in 2025, these are all books that I saw as new releases on the like Goodreads books that are coming out in 2025. So I don't know what any of these books are about, but we're just going to fast fire out the books that I have on this list. I can't tell you what any of them are about, but I'll show you the cover, and then if you want, go look up the books on Goodreads, maybe add them to your TBR. When I saw the covers / when I read a little bit of the synopsis, I thought they were interesting enough to add to this list. Should I have probably added what the synopsis was so I could tell you in this video? Yes. Did I? No. So we're just gonna move forward. Show Don't Tell by Curtis Steinfeld. How to Love Better by Young Pueblo. One Golden Summer by Carly Fortune. This one, again, I love Carly Fortune's writing, and I know she's kind of hit or miss with her releases, but I've loved them. She's just such a good author to read her books in the summer. They're so atmospheric. Give them a chance if you've not. Fan Service by Rosie Dannon. Blood Beneath the Snow by Alexandra Kennington. Serial Killer Games by Kate Posey. Ride With Me by Simone Saltani. Bad Publicity by Bianca Gillam. Passion Project by London Sperry. The Death of Us by Abigail Green. And then Saltwater by Katie Hayes. I can't tell you what the plot of any of those books are. Honestly, I probably could tell you the plot of like none of the books in this video, but that's always how I want to go into reading my books. I want to know as little information as I can about the story before diving into it. So yeah, those are the 25 books that I have on my radar for 2025. If you know of any like new releases that you're very excited for that I did not talk about in this video, please let me know in the comments, because I want to be better with knowing what books are coming out in the book world. Before I started making book related videos, honestly never knew when new authors and new releases were coming out. I just would go into a bookstore, look at the books, buy a book, and then repeat that cycle. But it's kind of fun keeping up to date with new releases and things like that. So I'm excited for the reads of 2025. Honestly, not to spoil my January reading wrap up and some of the videos coming out soon, but I started 2025 off with a 6-star read and with my new favorite book boyfriend. So 2025, I have a feeling is going to be a great year of reading. I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye.